It will sometimes be the case that in order to make certain materials look really good, we will need to add surface displacement to the mix. Now, although most of what we look at here is not substance specific, there is one extra step that we will need to take in connection with a substance in order to gain access to its height data. You may have perhaps noticed that when we imported the material into Unreal and created all of the map nodes, there was one missing, that being height. Let's gain access to that now though, by double clicking on the substance file, and then putting a check in the height option. This will now compute and add a height map to our content browser. We can then double click the material so as to open it up, and then left click and drag on its tab header so that we can see both the content browser and the material graph at the same time if we need to. It may take a while for the height map to compute, as we did increase our texture resolution to 2K in the previous video. If our computer is a little slow then, we may want to drop the substance resolution back down to its lowest value so as to speed this process up, and then increase it again once we are done. Let's adjust the layout of our material so as to give us some room. And then click on the material node in the graph and come to the Details tab, where we can scroll down until we come to the tessellation options. From the tessellation drop-down list, we want to select the basic flat tessellation option, although we can of course use the more detailed options if we want. If we find that our displacement causes the edges of the mesh to pull apart or leave gaps, then we can put a check in this crack-free displacement option, and that should close up the holes for us. With our cursor in the graph view, let's hold down the 1 key and click twice. This adds two constant float values that we will need in order to control both strength and tessellation amount. We can then hold down the M key and again click twice, which will create two multiply nodes for us. We need to multiply our map by the strength value so that we can control its amount. Now, it should be noted, if we had exposed the height intensity value in our substance, we could just use that parameter. But, as we didn't, we have to do it manually here. Let's drag our height map into the material editor and pipe it into the first multiply node. And then pipe one of the float nodes into the B input and set its value to 4. This will be our strength. Next, we can pipe our first multiply output into the B slot of the second multiply, as we need to push the mesh that has this material out along the world space normals. Let's right click and type vertex normal in the search field, and then click to add the world space vertex normal node. We can pipe this into the A slot of our second multiply, and then pipe the output from that into the world displacement input on our material. Next, we need to tell the material how much it can tessellate the mesh, and so let's pipe our second float node into the tessellation multiplier and set its value to 42. We then want to pipe our already existing texture coord node into our height map so that it tiles correctly. Now, because we didn't create the mesh in this level, nor set up its UVs, it will be a little hard to show the displacement option on it as it is. And so, let's set the texture coord node in our material graph to values of 5 and 3 in the UMV tiling respectively. Which we have done because the sphere that we will be applying the material to would just stretch the texture otherwise. After that is done, we can click Save. If we close the editor now and add a sphere to the level, we can scale it up using the R key to engage the scale tool, and then move it into place by pressing the W key to engage the move tool. After which, we can set its material to be the flow material that our substance created. If we just make sure our lighting is set to production build quality, rebuild our lighting, then once done, play the level in a new editor window and take a look at the material with displacement applied, hopefully you will agree, ignoring the hideous flaw that we have made, that it gives us a much better looking end result on the sphere. Adding little touches like displacement to our materials in key areas of a game or real-time visualization can go a long way toward improving the overall look of our imported substances.